What's up guys, and welcome back to Working Aussies Homestead. My name is Josh Kelly, and today we're gonna give you guys kind of a pre-tour of our garden space, show you where we're at, and show you what we are getting ready to try and knock out since we'll be gone for 2 weeks on a trip. I want to give you guys an update, and I want to give you 3 things that you can use to basically get ready and cover your garden or prep your garden for the upcoming spring season. Just some tips that we've learned along the way that might help you get the best bang for your buck. All right, so we are expanding our garden this year, and that means that we are not only using this space, but we're going to be using this space as well over here. And we ended up covering both of them with plastic, but it is now that time of the season to get really serious. And so how we do things around here is we lay down a weed barrier, and then we put down basically another weed barrier that's going to be able to break down over time, and then we put our compost on top of that. So let's kind of show you what we're looking at here and start with the first thing that you can use to prep your garden space for the spring season. So the first thing that we use to cover up our garden is a layer of cardboard. Very easy to get a hold of, and you can usually find an abundance of it anywhere that's basically having anything shipped to it, because everything comes in biodegradable boxes, almost cardboard boxes. So we get a ton of it from our work, and it just makes it easier on us. It does take a lot to cover this amount of space with cardboard boxes, but at the end of everything, it does make a very nice weed barrier as far as walking in the walkways and in our bed rows. When you're going to be using cardboard in your garden, you want to make sure that you take off all the stickies, any kind of plastic tape that you might have on there. Obviously I missed some, but you want to take off all that you can, so that way there's nothing left over in the ground once this has deteriorated, but the plastic will not. So you want to make sure you take all that stuff off, and you want to make sure that you wet this stuff down before you put your wood chips on it. It kind of helps it start the decomposition process, and it also weighs it down a bit. So when you go to put your layers of wood chips on top, they don't go sliding around and you don't get some wood chips under the lip. Another tip I want to give you is that if you are going to be putting wood chips on top using a wheelbarrow, always do it the opposite direction that you are laying your cardboard down. So when you're covering your cardboard, if this is the top layer and this is the bottom layer, you want your wood chips to come this way so they don't flip under this lip that's going to be caused by laying the cardboard on top of each other. Been there, done that. That is not a fun thing to try and come back from, especially once there's a ton of wood chips underneath that lip. So right now all we have in the garden is these tulips, but we'll be planting some things here soon. Before we leave, I'm planning on getting some onion sets in the ground, and we do have some plant starts inside, but we don't have anything in the ground yet. It is still a bit early. But I wanted to talk to you about the second thing that we are going to be using to cover our garden this year, and that is this straw. You can use straw to cover your garden if you don't have wood chips, or if you don't have cardboard. You do have to put down a thick layer of that, basically suppress the weeds, but it can be done. It is a little bit expensive right now, just finding good hay that you can use to basically just put on top of the square that you are going to be using. So I recommend, if you're going to use hay, you're going to use it on a small plot rather than a big plot. We will be using hay on top of our onion sets, and as you can see here, we have it on the tulips here, and any kind of bulbs that will be going in the ground, we're going to be putting our hay on top of. So we don't use a lot of it. We actually use most of our spent hay in our chicken run, so that way we can make compost in there and also in our deep bedding systems in the barn. Walking over to our second bed, we've almost got this one done. We've gotten all the wood chips down except for this little tiny section here. We're gonna try and finish that when we get back, but I have been laying some beds out over on this corner. My goal is to get the onions in here and to get these beds laid out, so that way they will hopefully be ready to plant once we get back, because we have 2 weeks that we're going to be missing, and we really need to be on top of it when we get back in order to stay ahead, or at least be on time for our planting outside. So I've put these 2 beds in here, and these are basically wood chips with compost on top of them, and then the cardboard that is under that will break down, and these beds will look really good. We've had good luck with this compost as of the last 2 years, so we're going to continue to use it again. It is not something that we make here, but it is something that we get local, so it has done really well for us up to this point, and I do plan on making some compost, but not enough to cover this much garden space, so we are putting our money where our mouth is on that and getting a ton of compost for these 2 spaces so we can grow a lot of good food. The other thing I'm planning on doing this year is I've got a burn barrel. We're gonna make some activated charcoal that we can put in our compost that we're using to kind of stir up the rest of the microbial activity that we can put in there. This is gonna be a huge space this year. There are 12 beds in each square, or each plot that we are going to be planting in, and each bed is going to be 36 feet long and 30 inches wide. So I think even though we're doing 3,800 square feet or so, I think planting space is supposed to be somewhere around 2,160 or 2,200 square feet of actual planting space in this garden. So that's going to be a lot to fill up. So we're going to need a lot of starts, and so that brings me to this section. I'm not going to go into too much detail since we are making a video on this, but we did end up getting this greenhouse. And the plan is we're going to start seeds both indoors and outside this year. And I think this will give us a lot of space to get things done. This is a whole new experience for us. We've never done greenhouse gardening. We've never started seeds out in the greenhouse. We've always had them either direct sown or under grow lights in the house, which is what we've started to do this year, but we really wanted to step up our game since we have so much space that we're going to be doing this year, and we bit the bullet. We bought a greenhouse, and I'm excited for that video to come for you guys, because we're going to go into what kind of greenhouse it is, how easy it was to put up, what we decided to do about the base, because I didn't want it necessarily in this spot at first, so I wanted it to be movable if we needed to take it back down and move it, or to take with us. So, and honestly, I'm thoroughly pleased with the way this greenhouse has come out, so I think it's going to be a really good experience this year and give us that much more of an ability to get plants started and in the ground without having so much shock from having to sit them outside and get acclimated. We're not good at that, so getting plants acclimated is not our strong point, so it's going to be good to have this greenhouse and hopefully make that acclimation point just a little bit easier. So what I'm thinking about the garden is we're going to put some tables in here, and then we'll put wood chips on the ground, and we'll basically just make this a nice place to make starts. We're not actually going to be growing it in the winter in this greenhouse, but it will give us a little bit more accessibility as far as seeds go, and they don't have to be in the house all the time. The third thing we're going to be using this year as a covering is wood chips, which we've done a lot of so far. So wood chips are great. You can put a thick layer of wood chips down, and they are a wonderful weed barrier. If you don't put the cardboard down before then, you are going to need a lot of wood chips, so I recommend putting the cardboard down or some kind of layer down. Maybe you could do like straw and wood chips if you don't want to use the cardboard, but wood chips are a wonderful way to get you started and to keep those weeds at bay. We actually use the wood chips in our walkways as well. So during the season, we'll actually add more wood chips to the walkways later, and it's very nice in the sense that it adds that fungal layer of the microbial. Always use wood chips. We are ecstatic to always be able to get wood chips, and we actually get wood chips from a local tree service place that is about 30 minutes from our house. So we run the wood chips in the walkways, and then we do the compost on top of the wood chips where we're going to plant. And what that ends up doing is the compost is very microbial based. So you get your bacteria, you get all those good microbes in there, and then the wood chips, as they break down, will bring in the fungi that you're looking on the other side. So as far as the garden goes, you want a higher bacteria level than you want fungus, but you still want to keep everything in balance. So having the wood chips in the walkways kind of balances all that out and makes it a complete system and makes it work really, really well. Now, if you're going to use just wood chips, then you're probably going to want a thicker layer than we put down. We only put down about 1 inch to 2 inches of wood chips on top of our cardboard. If you're going to go just wood chips, you might want to do 4 to 6 inches of wood chips before you lay anything else down, or you could do straw and wood chips if that's something that you're looking for, but you could just do a 4-inch layer of wood chips and will probably be okay. Now, I haven't laid out the beds yet, but we do have some starts inside, including some cabbages and some cauliflowers, and we're going to be starting broccolis and onion sets before we leave. So this is a good starting point. This is a very good starting point. and we're just trying to stay on top of it this year because we are excited about having the garden and we want to be really successful at it this year. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game. I hope this helps you out this year, guys, and I hope that you take these ideas and use them in your own garden, and hopefully they will lead to a weed-free spring garden for you as well as the rest of the season. So if you guys like what you saw today, tell us what you're excited about this garden season. What is it that you are excited to be doing or growing? We'd love to hear about it. Leave it in the comment section below. We're using the Clyde's calendar for all of our planting, so hopefully we get everything in the appropriate time. The problem that we usually run into is the spring stuff usually doesn't make it all the way through the spring to the summer because our temperatures get really hot really fast around here. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that's all I have for you today. My partner in crime over here and I are going to go to a Valentine's evening dinner. So I hope this gives you some insight on some of the things that you can do to prep and get ready for your spring garden. It is March here in North Carolina, so we will be starting very, very soon. And until the next video, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by.